5. Quorum being present, the committee will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the committee is meeting to consider Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolution, and the committee rules of procedure. In order to expedite proceedings, I plan to recognize members under the 5-minute rule. Any requests for recorded votes may be rolled to the end of the meeting, and the committee may recess at any point. Without objection, so ordered. I now recognize myself to make an opening statement. I'm pleased that the committee is meeting today to officially kick off our work for the 117th Congress. There's so much work for the committee to do, given that the Department of Homeland Security is a central player in our efforts to address the most pressing national issues before us today. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. The justification for the creation of the Department of Homeland Security is so closely tied to that catastrophic event. Today, DHS has enormous responsibilities well beyond the major task of preventing foreign terrorists from carrying out attacks on our soil. The growth in terrorist activities by domestic actors, most notably by violent white supremacist extremists and armed militias, pose a clear and present danger to the well-being of our nation. We are all still absorbing the horrifying events of January 6th, where nearly 1,000 rioters invaded the Capitol in an orchestrated fashion aimed at preventing Congress from carrying out its sacred constitutional role to certify the presidential election. I'm proud that notwithstanding that terrorist incursion, we came back and did our job. I'm also proud of the work DHS did in the run-up to the 2020 election to ensure that we had the most secure election in American history and its ongoing activities to protect our democracy. In the wake of the attack, it falls to us in this committee to do oversight into the breakdowns and information sharing before and during that fateful day. For those of us who've been involved in efforts to ensure that federal, state, and local authorities work together to connect the dots to prevent terrorist plots, this massive failure is very alarming. DHS is also a major player in the national effort to address the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it's supporting states in their efforts to get testing and PPEs in the field or standing up vaccination centers. DHS has a central role to play. Another major responsibility that DHS has is with respect to protecting the nation's cyberspace. Last year, when we enacted reforms proposed by the Solarium Commission to improve federal coordination and response to cyber threats, few of us had ever heard of SolarWinds. Today, CISA and its partners are in a race against time to address the damage resulting from this sophisticated and sustained supply attack on federal networks and certain critical infrastructure. This Congress, it falls on us as CISA's authorizers to not only carry out diligent oversight of CISA's efforts to assess the exposure of federal systems and eradicate our adversaries from our networks, but also to determine the adequacy of CISA's authorities and resources to execute this vital mission. Like I said, the committee has a lot of important work to do this Congress. Fortunately, this committee is well positioned to address all of these challenges. We have a great group of members, and with the support of Speaker Pelosi, we have a memorandum of agreement with other House committees with jurisdiction over DHS to set the stage for unprecedented collaboration on Homeland Security legislation. Without objection, I'd like to enter into the record the agreement which was submitted by Speaker Pelosi into the congressional record on January 25th, 2021. This agreement is designed to not only help the committee advance sweeping DHS reform legislation, but also ensures that the Committee on Homeland Security is consulted whenever other committees are looking into advanced component-specific bills. Turning to today's agenda, prior to today's meeting, I consulted with the ranking member on the committee's rules package and staffing resolution. The only substantive change to the committee rules relates to decorum. Specifically, the rules prohibit anyone from physically attending committee proceedings or coming into the committee space without properly wearing a mask. As leaders in Homeland Security, we owe it to each other and our constituents to be good role models and to do things that the CDC and other public health authorities have asked us to do to keep each other safe and help keep COVID-19 under control. With that, I recognize my new partner on the Homeland Security Committee, who comes into the role of ranking member with a substantive record on this committee, Mr. Katko.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here with us today. I share your desire to work together in a bipartisan manner in the 117th Congress. I want to express my sincere appreciation to you, Mr. Chairman, and your staff for the collaboration through the first months of the new Congress, as we put together the committee's rules and begun our oversight efforts. Born out of the tragedy of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, and I lost many friends at that day, for which this year will mark the 20th anniversary, the Committee on Homeland Security plays a critical role in ensuring that Americans are protected from a litany of evolving threats. As a former organized crime prosecutor for 2 decades, I saw firsthand the important work that the Homeland Security does every day, whether responding to the latest cyber attacks on taxpayers, protecting our borders, responding to natural disasters, or protecting the free movement of people and goods. The work of this committee matters to our constituents and to our country. And to that end, I believe in this committee's capacity to conduct thoughtful oversight and produce bipartisan legislation. Our nation is facing persistent security challenges and seemingly boundless disunity. Here is where we can rise above partisanship for the good of the American people. And let me repeat that. This committee is where we can rise above the partisanship for the good of the American people. And I join the chairman in welcoming such an esteemed group of new and returning members to the Committee on Homeland Security. I have no doubt your collective policy depth, experience, and passion will inform our work together in the 117th Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Katko. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. It's my understanding that there is agreement on the measures. As such, the chair will be asking unanimous consent to consider these measures be approved en bloc in the interest of time. And I yield to the gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reserving the right to object, and I will not object, I would now request that the chairman yield to me for purposes of engaging in a colloquy.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for purposes of engaging in a colloquy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you clarify how the committee will approach subpoenas and depositions in the 117th Congress?
I thank the gentleman. As a ranking member knows, I welcome bipartisan collaboration on the committee and am proud of the nature in which chairs on both sides have led in a bipartisan manner. Regarding subpoenas, I pledge to the ranking member that, when practical, the full committee will meet to consider subpoena, and that not only in exigent circumstances would I move to issue a subpoena without outside of the committee meeting. In the event that the committee must issue a subpoena outside of the committee meeting, I pledge to do so in consultation with the ranking member. With respect to deposition authority, as was the case in the 116th Congress, whenever the majority intends to schedule a deposition, I will endeavor to provide notice of not less than 3 days to the ranking member to afford minority staff the opportunity to participate in such proceedings and to claim equally divided questioning time. With that, I yield back to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know as a general matter, all witnesses are considered to be under oath and are obligated to testify truthfully. And that, as a general practice, the committee doesn't require witnesses to stand and take an oath at our hearings. That said, there may be instances on a case-by-case basis where I would like to engage with you about a witness or a group of witnesses doing so. Would you agree to engage with me in such circumstances, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm open to engaging with the ranking member in such circumstances.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Chairman, can you tell me what members should expect with regards to remote committee proceedings in the 117th Congress?
I thank the ranking member. Let me begin by saying that standing House and committee rules and practice will continue to apply during remote proceedings. Members will be expected to continue to adhere to the rules of the committee and the House. During the covered period as designated by the Speaker, the committee will operate in accordance to House Resolution 8 and the subsequent guidance from the Rules Committee in a manner that respects the right of all members to participate. The technology we are using today requires us to make some small modifications to ensure that the members can fully participate in these proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you please elaborate on how members may expect to be recognized during a remote proceeding?
Thank you. First, to simplify the order of questioning, I will recognize members for their 5-minute questioning based on strict seniority basis as determined by our committee roster, a departure from our previous procedure. Members must be visible to the chair in order to be considered as present for purposes of establishing a quorum or for voting. Members should make every effort to remain visible on screen throughout the proceeding. If a member experiences issues with their video stream, they may proceed with solely audio to ensure connection, provided that they have been identified previously. At the beginning of a hearing, members will be on mute. Members may unmute themselves in order to be recognized for purposes of their 5-minute questioning of witnesses. At the conclusion of speaking, members will be expected to then mute themselves to prevent excess background noise. In the event that a member does not mute themselves after speaking, the clerk has been directed to mute members to avoid inadvertent background noise. Should a member wish to be recognized to make a motion, they must unmute themselves and seek recognition at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What could a member expect should they encounter technical issues during a remote event?
In the event a member encounters technical issues that prevent them from being recognized for their questioning, I will move to the next available member of the same party, and I will recognize that member at the next appropriate time slot, provided they have returned to the proceeding. Should a member's time be interrupted by technical issues, I will recognize that member at the next appropriate spot for the remainder of their time once their issue has been resolved. At the outset of each hearing, a chair should designate a member to assume the duties of the chair in event that they should encounter technical difficulties.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What should members expect regarding decorum during a remote event?
Thank you. Members are reminded that they are only allowed to attend one virtual event at a time. Should they need to attend another committee's proceedings, please fully exit the hearing before entering another proceeding. Finally, members are reminded that they are expected to observe standing rules of committee decorum for appropriate attire and should have a professional and apolitical background when they are participating in any remote event.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What should members expect if a witness loses connectivity?
Thank you. In the event a witness loses connectivity during testimony or questioning, I will preserve their time as staff address the technical issue. I may need to recess the proceedings to provide time for the witness to reconnect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And finally, what happens often, what should members expect if a vote is called during a remote event?
Thank you. House Resolution 8 requires members to be visibly present to have their vote recording during a remote event. Members who join the proceeding after a vote is called and who are not called upon for their vote should seek recognition from the chair to ensure their vote is recorded. Should a member lose connectivity during a roll call vote, I will hold the vote open for a period of time to address the technical issue and provide members with an opportunity to have their vote recorded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on this colloquy, I withdraw my reservation and yield back. Thank you.
As previously noted, there are two organizational matters for the committee's consideration. After consultation with the ranking member, there is bipartisan agreement to adopt the two measures by unanimous consent. Pursuant to that agreement, I now call up the committee rules of procedure for the 117th Congress and Committee Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolution. Copies of these measures were circulated in advance. Without objection, the reading is dispensed with and the measures are open to amendment at any point. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Without objection, the committee adopts the committee rules for the 117th Congress and Committee Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolution. Hearing no objection, each measure is adopted by the committee. Without objection, staff is authorized to make any technical and conforming changes. With that, I ask unanimous consent to waive Committee Rule 8A2 during committee remote proceedings under the covered period designated by Speaker under House Resolution 8. Without objection, so ordered. Finally, I want to note that members have been given a number of documents, the most urgent of which is an oath that pursuant to committee rules must be executed before members may have access to classified information. I would ask that all members provide a signed copy of that document to the committee's security director as soon as possible. Before I close, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our new members and announce key leadership positions. First off, we have been inundated by two new additional committee members from New Jersey, Representative Josh Gottenheimer and Tom Malinowski. They now join two other members from New Jersey. So the New Yorkers, Representative Katko, you all are gonna have to kind of be nice.
Well, we'll try. It's a New Jersey posse, it looks like, yes.
Absolutely. Our other new members are Representative Elaine Luria of Virginia and Representative Richard Torres of New York have joined the panel. We're also pleased to have one returning member who has not served with many of you, but did great things here as a freshman, Representative Swalwell of California. We're fortunate also that Representative Torres has agreed to serve as committee's vice chair. And I assure you, you will see a lot of the vice chair during this session. On the Border Security Facilitation and Operations Subcommittee, we have a member who's no stranger to border issues, Representative Nanette Barragon from California. On the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Protection and Innovation Subcommittee, Representative Yvette Clark returns to take the reins of a subcommittee that she chaired before there was a CISA. On the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery Subcommittee, we're fortunate to have Representative Val Demings of California with her extensive law enforcement and disaster preparedness and response experience. We look forward to that being a tremendous advantage for us. On the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Subcommittee, we have Representative Elisa Slotkin of Michigan, a seasoned intelligence professional at the helm of this high threat time. And we look forward to great things from that committee also. As you know, we always have somebody who's looking over everybody's shoulder, and that falls upon the Oversight and Management Accountability Subcommittee. Representative Lou Correa, who has extensive oversight record on the committee and is well positioned to help get DHS where it needs to be. On the Transportation and Maritime Subcommittee, we are fortunate that Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman has agreed to return to this subcommittee where she previously served with distinction as a top Democrat and also as a counterweight to our ranking member of the full committee. And record has it, ranking member, that you and Representative Coleman actually had a wonderful relationship. So I look forward to that continuing. I now yield to Mr. Katko for purposes of introducing the new Republican members and the ranking members for the 6 committee subcommittees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I may add, I am very impressed that so many of the members on your side of the aisle have a lot of experience in this field, and I'm excited to have that experience. Alyssa Slotkin, for example, is tremendous in what she's going to be doing, and many of the others as well. And we're really happy to see that. And I think you'll hear that from my members. We have an equally impressive cast on our side. The last thing I'll say before I introduce my members is welcome to all the Democratic members. Welcome to new ones to the committee, and good to see old friends like Bonnie Watson Coleman and Mr. Payne and many others. So I want to thank you for that. We have a very diverse group. Ralph Norman is from South Carolina. He's on here for the first time. He has a real estate background. Andrew Garbarino was a freshman, a congressman who had spent a lot of time in the New York State legislature and has tremendous experience from a legislative standpoint. Kat Kamek from Florida is another freshman. Carlos Jimenez, who had a unbelievable experience running Miami-Dade County, everything from FEMA to the ports to the airports to being a firefighter to being a sheriff. He has tremendous background for this. Peter Meyer, with his military background as well, from Michigan, is on the committee. August Pfluger, with a phenomenal background as a fighter pilot on the highest levels and routinely being exposed to intel at the highest levels. Dinah Harshberger from Tennessee. Marriott Miller Meeks, another military veteran. Jake LaTurner from Kansas. And Andrew Clive from Georgia. And I want to congratulate my subcommittee ranking members for the 117th Congress. And you'll see it's heavily laden with new freshmen. And that's not by anything other than the fact that they were trying to match up the best talent with the best committees. So we'll start with Clay Higgins, who remains as from Louisiana as ranking member of the Border Security Facilitation and Operations Subcommittee. We also have Representative Andrew Garbarino from New York City, Peter King's old seat, so it's kind of a legacy, as ranking member of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Protection and Innovation Subcommittee, which is a critically important subcommittee. He'll be working with New York on that subcommittee, from what I understand. Kat Kamek from Florida is a ranking member on the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery Subcommittee. She has extensive experience working with FEMA, and her husband is a first responder. Carlos Jimenez, who I mentioned his background, is going to be the ranking member for Transportation and Maritime Security, which makes a lot of sense. August Pfluger is going to be our Intel and Counterterrorism Subcommittee chair, and I think he'll do a terrific job on that as well, working with Alyssa. And Peter Meyer, as ranking member of the Oversight, Management, and Accountability Subcommittee, is tailor-made for him with his background as well. So I'm excited to have all of us work together in a bipartisan manner. I have instructed my committee again and again on my side of the aisle that they are to work to find common ground, not to find differences. And we're going to endeavor to do just that going forward. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranking Member. And I too share your wishes that we set the standard for the rest of the committees here during the 117th. Without objection, I submit for the record the full list of members of the committee and each of its subcommittees. Hearing no objection, so ordered. I want to thank the gentleman from New York, my new partner on the committee, and I pledge and look forward to working with all the other members of this Congress. There are really no boundaries for our committee. I think everyone came to Congress his or her own way, and I look forward to you demonstrating your interest and expertise in those areas. There being no further business, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you very much.